So get this, never before in the history of humanity have we been as alone as we are right now, except for during COVID, but that was sort of an outlying event. Otherwise, Americans are reporting higher and higher levels of loneliness every single year. We're basically in the midst of the largest social experiment ever created, but we didn't sign up for it. We didn't even know it was happening, and yet here we are living it day in, day out. And the reason that this is such a big deal is because we know from decades of research that feeling connected is by far the most important ingredient to living a happy life. The longest study ever done on well-being, carried out by Harvard, showed that the most crucial component of living a good life was the quality of your closest relationships. It also showed that the health of your relationships was the biggest predictor for physical health and professional success. In other words, relationships matter. They matter a lot. They have an enormous effect on basically all areas of our lives. And so it comes as no surprise that our country, in part because of this loneliness crisis, is going through the largest mental health epidemic that we have ever faced. Of course, there are a lot of other factors driving the epidemic, but I want to focus on relationships primarily because the research is so consistent on how important they are to our well-being. Now, if I were to be honest, one of my biggest fears is that this epidemic is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It's going to get worse because isolation, while debilitating, can also be strangely habit-forming. It's sort of addictive. We all know what it's like to spend 24 hours in a Netflix, Instagram, DoorDash oblivion, only to emerge, cancel plans on friends whom we care about, and then lay back down and continue our descent into that lonely digital hellscape that is now everyday life. It's lovely. It's so nice. It's so easy to lose ourselves to these virtual worlds. And while it might be comforting, the things that we lose in exchange for that comfort are really serious. We give up a sense of belonging, a feeling of being alive in the world, of exercising control over our lives. Instead, we're sort of suspended in these digital prisons where we spend hours a day scrolling and texting and tweeting in some sort of numbed out haze. We can see it happening all around us. Doesn't matter if you're at the doctor's office or waiting for the bus, we're all captured by the same thing. And I think we all know on some deeper level that humans are not supposed to live this way. Now, what has me really worried is that I myself, as a mental health professional, as a therapist, have fallen victim to this trap over and over again. I can see it happening. I know how to get out of it, and yet I get consumed by it every single time. The forces pushing me and all of us towards this new world are enormous, and they're just very difficult to contend with. And we didn't necessarily choose that world either. It's a world where Zoom meetings and dating apps and the metaverse are the new gathering places. It's a world where the warmth of a smile is reduced to an emoji, and that's really sad to me. I don't think we fully realize this yet, but this new world is slowly killing us. And I mean that figuratively as well as literally. There are plenty of studies that show that loneliness is detrimental to your health. One study showed that it's on par with smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That's really disturbing. It's also why the Surgeon General wrote a report on the loneliness epidemic to try to raise concern around the issue. What's also disturbing is the fact that isolation can lead to serious addiction. We've actually known for a long time that underlying most forms of addiction is some aspect of disconnection. Now, unfortunately, what this means is that loneliness is good for business. The more isolated you are, the more likely you are to become addicted to, you name it, social media, gaming, shopping, overeating. The list is long, and we are all very familiar with it. Now, what's interesting and quite sad is that these addictions only isolate us further because they're so consuming. That isolation then creates even more addiction, and thus begins a very vicious feedback loop that's really hard to break free from. And that's the opportunity before us, right? How do we come together to break free from these loneliness traps? I know for myself it's been more challenging than I'd like to admit. I had to really push myself to rejoin everyday life, and sometimes I still have to. A lot of my clients still talk about how they haven't quite rejoined society after COVID. They feel like society itself has fundamentally changed, making it harder to maintain friendships, to meet new people, to be social in general. So in case you're feeling that way, you're not alone. The truth is, we'll most likely have to drag ourselves out of these cocoons over and over again. simply because the forces pushing us into them are so strong. But I promise you that life is out there waiting for you. It's not on a device, it's in the physical world around you. It's in the awkwardness of small talk, or drinking a margarita with a close friend, or calling up your uncle to talk about how the government is microchipping your pets and listening to you all the time. That's always fun. My hope is that we're able to reclaim what has always been central to the human experience, a sense of belonging that can carry us through the slings and arrows of this life. At our core, that's who we are. We're social beings who thrive when held by something larger than us. I really hope we haven't forgotten what that's like, that precious feeling of being in the presence of people who care about you. No digital platform in the world can ever replace that. In fact, I think it's audacious that we've even tried. Now, because our world is inherently digital, we will most likely slip back into these loneliness traps even after we've made progress. But my hope is that we're gentle with ourselves when it happens, because we know what we're up against. And hopefully, because we know what's at stake, we crawl back out of those traps and towards each other. I hope you'll join me in that process and join our community. We're trying to create a little pocket of sanity in an otherwise pretty insane world. So please subscribe to our channel, offer your comments, tell us a little bit about who you are, and until next time, thank you for watching.